think number one, which a lot of developers miss the boat on this, is getting community buy-in, right? You're not just parachuting in from your ivory tower to come and make a profitable situation for this area. You are, diligently and intentionally, working with the community, letting them know that, you're not just there to make a profit. You're there to actually provide a benefit to them and work with them.
The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 10 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS product lineup includes string inverters ranging from 25 kW to 350 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 350 kW, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. CPS is the world's most bankable inverter brand and is America's #1 choice for solar plants, now offering solutions for commercial, utility, ESS, and balance of system requirements. Go to chintpowersystems.com or call 855-584-7168 to find out more. Hey guys, are you a residential solar installer doing light commercial but wanting to scale into large C&I solar? I'm Tim Montague. I've developed over 150 megawatts of commercial solar, and I've solved the problem that you're having. You don't know what tools and technologies you need in order to successfully close 100 kW to megawatt scale projects. I've developed a commercial solar accelerator to help installers exactly like you. Just go to cleanpowerhour.com, click on strategy, and book a call today. It's totally free with no obligation. Thanks for being a listener. I really appreciate you listening to the pod. And I'm Tim Montague. Let's grow solar and storage. Go to Clean Power Hour and click strategy today. Thanks so much.
The clean energy industry is moving fast. The deals are getting bigger, the technology is evolving, and the stakes have never been higher. Welcome to the Clean Power Hour, the podcast for solar, storage, and microgrid professionals who want to stay ahead of it all. Each week, your host, Tim Montague, industry advisor and president of Clean Power Consulting Group, brings you unfiltered conversations with the leaders actually building the energy transition. Now, here's your host, Tim Montague.
Today on the Clean Power Hour, microgrids. As my listeners know, I am very fond of microgrids. This involves a generator, a storage device like a battery, some hardware so that you can isolate from the grid. And once you realize the power of microgrids, you really want them everywhere, at the building level, at the community level. My guest today is Rod Matthews. He is the president of Brevian Energy in North County, San Diego. I'm so pleased to have you on the show. Welcome, Rod.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be a guest of such an esteemed program.
And thank you for your service. You're a Navy veteran. Really appreciate your service to our country. Rod,
Absolutely.
tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in solar and microgrids.
Well, first of all, as you mentioned, I spent 9 years in the Navy. I'm originally from Shreveport, Louisiana. I joined the Navy at 18 years old. I became an electronics technician. I did 9 years in the Navy. I got out with skills. I learned IT skills while I was in the military. And when I got out, I started working in networking. So after about 5 or 6 years doing that, I kind of evolved with working in data centers, working with data centers, really trying to help them curb their carbon footprint. And, that's when virtualization and things like that were really becoming more prevalent. And, data centers were trying to get a curb on their energy spending. So I was introduced to microgrids. I was really intrigued by it, as a technical kind of person, seeing that you had the ability to not only save money, but also, give resilience and, from the sustainability aspect, I think it was really, really big. So from that point, I took some training. Since I was, a veteran. They had some classes that were available to us as veterans. So I joined a program that was at Arizona State University, the Lease program. It was a microgrid boot camp. I took some similar courses from University of Alaska Fairbanks, and just some self-taught things from that perspective. And I really kind of dove in deep. I had some relationships with some friends and colleagues who came from the energy industry. One of my co-founders spent a long 20 years in solar, and another one of our co-founders spent over 30 years in the nuclear power realm. And from there, we decided to form a company. And we did that in 2019, right before COVID, the absolute perfect time to start a company. But we did that, and we've been going ever since.
In California, we have something called community choice aggregation, which is a little different than the aggregation that we see here in the Midwest. But you're working in a very niche market. Tell us about that. You're working with a CCA, and you have become a preferred vendor in what is a microgrid program incentivized by presumably some legislation. But set the table for us, Rod. What is the landscape there in Southern California that has opened a door for Brevian to become an expert in microgrids?
Well, first, I'll kind of dive into what CCAs or CCEs, community choice aggregators, or community choice energy providers, what they are and what they really mean. So what they are really are municipalities, individual cities coming together, forming a joint power authority, to them being responsible for the generation of the electricity. They're really, two components of our electricity bill right now that we pay here in North San Diego County. We have what's called the Clean Energy Alliance, who represents those 7 cities that have come together to form that joint power authority. They, on your electricity bill, you'll see 2 components. SDG&E, or San Diego Gas and Electric, is the investor-owned utility in our market. So they are responsible for the transmission and distribution of the electricity. And the CEA, who is really a nonprofit who works on behalf of the ratepayers in those 7 cities, they are responsible for the generation of the electricity. So in most cases right now, they go to the wholesale markets and they purchase, they put future stakes on the electricity that you're going to be using today that was purchased, months ago. So that's how it worked. But now they are really trying to move more towards local generation. So they don't have so much of the transmission and distribution that, that SDG&E is responsible for. We want most of that generated locally. So they have developed a program for the commercial sector called Solar Plus Battery, where effectively they're trying to implement as much storage as possible, because here in California, we adopted solar, pretty readily. So during the daytime, we actually overproduce. They have what's called a duck curve, where we overproduce during the day, and we are, starving for power at night. So we are trying to implement as much storage as possible. So with this program, commercial users that have over 15,000 square feet of, rooftop space, or 25 car spots available to do carport solar, they have the ability for no upfront cost whatsoever to receive, solar and battery storage, and they can sign a 25-year power purchase agreement, effectively like an agreement that they would get a predictable rate over the next 25 years that only escalates at 1%. And when you're seeing things right now with the natural gas prices spiking due to the Iran little controversy that we're having currently, you're going to see energy prices rising significantly over the next, 2 to 3 years. You can see spikes, of 10 to 20% in the rates, where now we can make that rate predictable at 1%. And I think the thing that makes it, supercharges it in effect is not only do you get an opportunity to save on your rate, get that predictable rate. And here in California, we have time of use for our pricing from our electricity company. So it really depends on the time you're using it that correlates with the price you're charged. And we have what's called peak time between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. You can be paying triple of what you pay at 8 o'clock in the morning, per se. So we have the ability to shift the load during those peak times to the batteries, so you're not pulling from the grid, saving you even more money. And also, you receive a lease payment for the space that is, you provide to actually provide that generation for your own usage. So, I mean, it is a slam dunk. And we've been identified as a premier and preferred vendor under this program with the Clean Energy Alliance by the program administrator, who is Luminia.
What we're talking about is a form of third-party ownership. The utility is owning the solar and batteries, installing that on a commercial industrial facility, and they're paying a lease payment, it sounds like, to the facility owner, and then guaranteeing some levelized cost or predictable cost of energy. If I'm a CNI customer, is that lease payment really the juice in the deal, or are there other savings that are passed on? You talked about energy arbitrage, for example, buy low, sell high, which is a very powerful thing when you have a battery. Are those savings passed on to the customer as well?
100%. Like I said, they have the ability to, adjust that so you're not pulling from the grid during your peak times. You also have the resilience factor, where they at least save 20% of the capacity of the battery to, go towards a resilience. So you make sure that you're always up and running. And those savings are passed directly to the customer. Again, that predictable 1% escalator annually. And here's the thing. You get a 1% escalator on your energy costs, but you get a 2% escalator on your lease payment. So every year annually, you get a 2% escalator on the lease payment that you receive. So even your incentives increase at a higher rate than your liabilities.
And when you're talking with facility owners, the C-suite, what are some of the questions that they have? We energy professionals often think that these PPAs or energy service agreements are going to be a complete slam dunk, but there are many considerations that a facility owner has. Do I want a solar array on my roof? Do I want a battery next to my facility? Walk us through some of the key decisions that the stakeholders are making in order to say yay or nay.
Really ironically, the first question that we get most of the time is, hey, well, then what's in it for you? You're giving me this with no upfront cost, what do you get out of it? So for us, as the developers, we are actually selling the system to the Clean Energy Alliance.
Right.
So that's the incentive that we get from it. Now, for the Clean Energy Alliance, they are mandated by the PUC to have so much energy available to the ratepayers, right? That's called resource adequacy. So if they don't have enough energy allocated to support their grid, they get fines. So they are trying to keep as much generation behind the meter as possible, and still implementing the storage to meet those demands that they have, particularly during peak times. So that's their incentive for doing it. And the ratepayers, again, you get that 1% escalator. You get and one of the great things about it as well is it doesn't even, their financials don't even factor into it. So it's not like they present their financials or anything. So it's a total win. So it's a win all the way around. The company wins by getting resilient, lower cost, predictable energy payments. The CEA, they get less demand that's on the grid, and for Luminia and companies like ours, we make a profit by implementing these services. So it's a win
Yeah.
all the way around.
Yeah, it really is a all around win. I I want to just continue to shine a light for a moment, though, on the facility owner. Uh, CNI installers, you know, they these projects that they're developing, that you're developing, can often take years in many places. Now, the the landscape is changing, as you mentioned. Energy prices are going up. The the rush of demand on the grid from data centers and electrification of transportation and everything, and now the war in Iran is a perfect storm. So energy prices are going up. They're going to go up even more,
Hmm.
and that is a motivating factor, right? That's the way that facility owners and consumers can fight back, is by installing solar and batteries, because once you have the technology, photons are free. But what other considerations are you dealing with your facility owners? And is your hit rate 100%, or what can um, installers expect once you kind of have this framework that the CCA and Luminia have worked out?
The biggest thing right now is for us is like kind of educating the CNI owners of these particular properties of really what this program entails. Um, a lot of times it can get a little bit confusing because there have been so many, scam type situations out there. So one of the things is to uh, have them realize that this is really an actual program by the Clean Energy Alliance, the people that you pay your electricity bill to. So there's no third party. You don't pay a bill to somebody else. You pay the same bill that you've already been getting. So that's number one. Uh, Secondly, we, let them know that this really enhances as a business owner, particularly if you are owner of these multi-tenant office suites. You make your building now a much more attractive offering for potential tenants. So, but by having resilient power and they'll be paying less on their electricity bills, your property becomes more valuable. Again, there is the security aspect of it as well. So not only do your people save more money, but now you are less vulnerable or susceptible to interruptions on the power grid. So there's that. So there are so many advantages that they can benefit from. So we just have to educate them on what those are and how they can pass those on to their potential tenants, in the future.
Yeah. So in the greater scheme, this Luminia program, is that 100% of your work, or are you doing other CNI solar and battery projects?
We're doing other projects as well. We really like to focus on the community aspect. We have a program that we have been diligently fighting for over the last couple of years here in San Diego, where we're looking to implement a community microgrid on a closed landfill. So we've been in talks with the city of San Diego, who currently handles that property, and some other community benefit organizations to try to make that project a reality as well. So that's really one of our passions, is working in community solar, trying to bring these technologies to communities that otherwise wouldn't really necessarily have the wherewithal or the resources to do it for themselves.
The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 10 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS product lineup includes string inverters ranging from 25 kW to 350 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 350 kW, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. CPS is the world's most bankable inverter brand and is America's #1 choice for solar plants, now offering solutions for commercial, utility, ESS, and balance of system requirements. Go to chintpowersystems.com or call 855 584-7168 to find out more. Cool. Yeah, well, let's talk about that Brownfield project. I'm very interested in Brownfield solar. My very first solar project that I walked was a Brownfield, a closed municipal landfill here in central Illinois.
Mhm.
But what is the status of that project? And you mentioned community microgrid. So you're going to put a solar array on a landfill. That makes perfect sense, right? There's a big piece of land that's available for a presumably ballasted solar array. But how does the community microgrid play out? Who are the benefactors of that project when it comes to fruition?
Well, first of all, that area is it's in the Choice View area of San Diego. So it can service about 25,000 homes or so. We're looking to, help them in those areas save at least 20% on their utility bills. And we also are implementing what was I think is pretty unique is, coming up with an SPV or special purpose vehicle in charge of the program that lets the local people living in the neighborhood uh, become a part of this. They actually become co-owners of this. For as little as $100, they can buy shares into this SPV, which I think is a pretty unique thing. Uh, they get the opportunity uh, to say where the money is distributed, how the profits are distributed. Uh, we look to provide at least, some community benefit out of that as well. So uh, we've been working pretty diligently with organizations like the San Diego uh, Urban Renewal Urban Renewable Society and other such organizations to try to really kind of educate the public. We're working with some other partners. We have a partner out of Atlanta called Midflare, who's helping co-develop this program that they are, working to get the signups for the particular people in the area. So it's definitely a multi-organizational effort, but it has been a labor of love. We've been engaging with the city, so we're really close now to getting the site lease from the city to make that happen.
And tell us about the other elements of the project. This is a microgrid project, so
It
there's a
is.
battery, or what is the generator?
Yeah, so we're looking at battery storage and some long duration battery storage, combined with 10 megawatts of solar.
Very cool. And do you know what kind of technology you think you'll use in terms of the battery?
Lithium ferrous phosphate.
Okay, lithium iron phosphate. Very cool.
Yes.
And that's what, like a 100 megawatt hour battery, or how big is a battery?
Oh, we're looking at 40 megawatt hours for the batteries.
Okay. Yeah, this phenomenon of community microgrids. I'm curious, since you're really in the weeds and you're dealing with the reality that there's quite a few stakeholders. You've got the city, which owns the land. You're putting together this special purpose vehicle, a financial tool to own and operate the entity, and then you have to form agreements with other stakeholders who are going to be off takers for the power. Um, what have you learned about this that you could share with my audience? And in particular, I'm keen on what does it take to make this happen in other places?
I think number one, which a lot of developers miss the boat on this, is getting community buy-in.
Mm,
Right? You're not just parachuting in from your ivory tower to come and make a profitable situation for this area. You are, diligently and intentionally, working with the community, letting them know that you're not just there to make a profit. You're there to actually provide a benefit to them and work with them. Um, have them to be educated about what you're doing. That's the first thing and the biggest hurdle you can get past is having these organizations come out against you. You never win that way. But if you really, truly come at it with the intention of community benefit, how can we get the most benefit out of the community with this, and then adjust your project to that, you have a much better chance of winning.
And tell us about that. Like, it sounds on one level, okay, you engage the community, but who is that? Who is the community? How do you engage with a community?
Well, that's why we look to partner with what's called community benefit organizations, organizations that have boots on the ground. They have relationships with the people in the community. They have the trust of the people in the community. We look to partner with organizations like that. Not even like the big national organizations, but I'm saying organizations that are specifically for those communities, because they have a lot of influence. They have a lot of people that are in those organizations that have a lot of sway with people who live in those communities. And they more accurately reflect the sentiments of the communities than some of these big national organizations. So, I mean, that has really been a key strategy for us.
And in terms of the financial model for this project, how do you make the battery pencil? What is the key to making the battery? Obviously, the battery allows for the microgrid to be a thing, and that gives resiliency, and I love that element. But the battery is relatively expensive on the front end, and so yes, you have expensive power, you're doing energy arbitrage, but I'm just curious, like, what else do we need to know to understand how this works?
Again, here in California, and all of our investor-owned utilities, we have that time of use element. That 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., I mean, that's a game changer. To be able to provide, power during that particular time frame is worth a lot more. It's considerably more valuable. Just as a person generating electricity and getting paid from it, you receive a lot more money during those particular times. So that's really what makes everything pencil out, is that exorbitant amount of money that we have to pay here in California. Really, here in SDG and E territory, San Diego Gas and Electric, we have the second highest utility cost in the entire country, only second to Hawaii, who has to import all of their electricity. So for us, just that 4 to 9, or that peak time, to be able to generate your own electricity and not pull from the grid, pencils everything.
Yeah, you can imagine. My listeners are very familiar with community solar. We have community solar in the Mid-Atlantic, in New Jersey, in the Northeast, in New York, and Massachusetts, and then here in the Midwest, in Minnesota and Illinois, and then there's pilots in New Mexico. So community solar is happening, but that solar array shuts down at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock when the sun goes down. And so having a battery, and a sizable battery, right, that can then become the grid is very useful.
We have like a little running joke for us. It's like, we love microgrids because we believe that we should have power at night.
Yeah, exactly.
So we should just be limited to power at the daytime.
And then is this with the same utility or a different utility?
This is with SDG&E is the investor-owned utility in our county, in San Diego County, and a little few parts of Orange County as well. But it's with a different clean energy, CCA. In North San Diego County, we have 7 cities called the Clean Energy Alliance. And in San Diego, they have 5 cities, much larger, but they are San Diego Community Power.
Okay. Cool. Well, what else should we know about Brevian Energy? I really, I'm just thrilled to have met you, and I would love to stay in touch. What else should our listeners know about your work that you're excited about, challenges that you're overcoming, opportunities that you're taking advantage of? What else should we know?
Well, right now, again, we're working with this program with the Clean Energy Alliance in North San Diego County. It's really the first of its kind where everyone benefits. There's no upfront cost. There's no credit check for the customer. As long as you qualify, you produce, you consume a certain amount of power annually. You can get these services that will reduce your ultimate cost and actually generate lease payments for you, which I think is a game changer. So we're really just now getting that program implemented. For us, it's more of an education process to make the customers, the CNI customers, aware that this program exists and that it is real, and educate them about the potential benefits of it. So that part is really exciting to me because I love. I'm a teacher by nature. I think I may have been a teacher, except they don't get paid enough. But I love to, educate people and talk to people, and it's giving me that opportunity. So it gives me a chance to exercise a few of my passions together. And I always been committed to helping others. So as long as I can do that, educate, help others, and, generate a little income for myself to at least pay my bills, I'm always happy.
Hey guys, are you a residential solar installer doing light commercial but wanting to scale into large CNI solar? I'm Tim Montague. I've developed over 150 megawatts of commercial solar, and I've solved the problem that you're having. You don't know what tools and technologies you need in order to successfully close 100 kW to megawatt scale projects. I've developed a commercial solar accelerator to help installers exactly like you. Just go to cleanpowerhour.com, click on strategy, and book a call today. It's totally free with no obligation. Thanks for being a listener. I really appreciate you listening to the pod. And I'm Tim Montague. Let's grow solar and storage. Go to Clean Power Hour and click strategy today. Thanks so much. Cool. Well, check out all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. Please tell a friend about the show. That's the best thing you can do to help others find this content. We'll put a link to Brevian Energy in the show notes. But Rod, how else can our listeners find you?
Of course, you can always reach us from our website at Brevian. That's BREV as in Victor, IAN as in Nancy, energy.com. You can check us out, see what we have to offer there. You can always reach us at sales@brevianenergy.com. And you can always reach me directly at my phone number is 760-925-5500. I always pick up. So don't hesitate to call, reach out if you have any questions or if we can be of any service in any way.
Thank you so much, Rod Matthews, president of Brevian Energy. And if you are listening to this and have ideas for other microgrid related stories, please reach out to me. I am writing a book called Wired for Resilience, the Battery and Microgrid Playbook. So please reach out to me if you have good stories about microgrids happening across the U.S. or across the world. With that, I'll say, I'm Tim Montague. Let's grow solar and batteries. Thank you so much, Rod.
Thank you.
The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 10 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS product lineup includes string inverters ranging from 25 kW to 350 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 350 kW, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. CPS is the world's most bankable inverter brand and is America's #1 choice for solar plants, now offering solutions for commercial, utility, ESS, and balance of system requirements. Go to chintpowersystems.com or call 855-584-7168 to find out more.